Before this video starts, 57% of you guys are still not subscribed to this channel. If you wanna get your first copy of Winpin from Lilith, subscribe now. Thank you. Yo, what's up guys? I'm here hitting you up with a new video. Lilith decided to make an announcement about Tevor regarding Tevor recent balance issues. After the 3.6 update, we observed that Tevor swings performed way better than we expected in Point War. Really? So I only have two explanations when it comes to Lilith with these balance adjustments. There's two things. Either they hired an intern who does all their balancing and they're going hog wild with every adjustment, and that's what they came up with. So either they know exactly what they are doing with these adjustments, or option two, which does make more sense, they absolutely have no idea what they're doing with the aspects. Like literally no idea. They just do changes and then there you go, guys. Have fun with it. We didn't test anything, so figure that one out for us. We also have received feedback from many players regarding Tevor's ability changes. Like, dude is out for 24 hours. How can they receive so many feedbacks when it comes to Tevor? As keeping things balanced is one of our top priorities. Let's not guess this part here. We will further adjust Tevor's abilities based on original expectations of his design and on everyone's suggestions. Yeah, his original design was put him into your bench and never touch him, never use him. Till this day, this guy still has no captain ability, by the way. The adjustment details will be disclosed in a future announcement. As always, thank you for your cooperation and support. And as we can see, there are like a lot of reactions to it. I think currently the community is like a 50-50. So people either want him to be nerfed, and the other half are like, he's completely fine as he is. My personal opinion is he's actually fine how he is, because there's the PvE side of the game and there's the PvP side of the game. So my personal opinion about Tevor is, for the PvP side of the game, he's completely fine as he is. For the PvE side, he needs tweaking. So my personal opinion when it comes to adjustments for Tevor is, let's first talk about PvE and what I personally would change about Tevor, and as well when I talk to top players in this game, what is reasonable for him. So what they can do is, first of all, they can change his R6 effect, which is the biggest issue when it comes to PvE side of things. You saw the video from Daily Free to Play showcasing the Dislyte scores, and also there are some ritual scores out there. Let me show you something real quick. So here we are having like a little wheel. Is, I believe, one of the, not the biggest whale in Dislyte right now, and he averages a score of 4.7 turns in APAP with an R6 Tevor. Obviously he has super fucking crazy relics as well. He's very good. He knows what, like, that's the scariest part. He's a whale, like he's one of the biggest whales, right? But not only is he a whale, but he also has good relics, really good relics, and he knows what he does. And if you combine that, you get an average score of 4.7 in APAP. So basically what the biggest issue right now is actually Tevor's R6 effect, which allows him to assist every single attack while having his Neko analysis. So here's my suggestion to what Lilith can actually does to balance things out here is adjust his R60 effect by either completely replacing it by something else, or what they can do is reduce the chance of him assisting from 100% down to 50%, so he has not a chance to immediately proc his S1 all the time when something happens, right? And for Dislyte lands, or not even for Dislyte lands, but a thing with his Neko analysis in general, like people were talking a lot about his overflow damage. His overflow damage is not even the biggest issue when it comes to the PvE side of the game. The biggest amount of damage which comes from Dislyte with a Tevor is actually, from when we look at his Nico analysis, is actually the green effect, which is the true damage portion with the 600% attack. That is actually the biggest offender for PvE right now. So how can they balance that without destroying Tevor's identity as they change now is? What they could do is to balance things out is that the Neko analysis passive effect only appears when it's Tevor's turn. But when it's not Tevor's turn, there's no Neko analysis going on overall. So when you use him, for example, in Dislyte and someone has him in his team right at R6. So first of all, he only has a 50% chance of even proccing his assist, for example, first thing. And then the second effect is when he's assisting, the Neko analysis is not even active. Yeah. So that way he cannot trigger that 600% true damage all the time. And that also places into effect for PvP, but for PvP it's not even a big deal. But for the PvE side of the game, it would balance a lot. So the only real two things they need to do is nerf his R6 down from 100% to 50%, and also remove the Neko analysis effect when it's not his own turn. And that balances out everything when it comes to Tevor from the PvE side of the game. Also, I'm not even sure if the blue effect with the defense ignore even has an effect on Dislyte. No one can even tell. His R2 effect with him always landing a critical hit is not a big issue at the end of the day, because that only takes into effect for if you really want to consider it PvP. For PvE doesn't really change that much. But even if they would do something, then people would build him with crit rate, and they still have all the other stats they need for him to do what he's supposed to do. So his R2, in my opinion, is completely fine. Overall, his kit is also fine. And when we now talk about the PvP part of the game, when it comes to Tevor, there's like a lot of people saying, oh, he's too strong for point war, he's like, he does way too much and something and so forth. Like, guys, are you serious? Who cares about point war? Literally no one cared. Literally no one give a fuck about point war. Pre-patch now, no one even cared. Like the bare minimum of players who played point war are like at point war 17 and 18 and below that. No one really played, and even those people didn't even care too much. And now with the actual buff of Tevor, now people who never used Tevor before now starting to use Tevor and actually now have a chance of competing in point war, even though it's a complete irrelevant game content right now. Actually, Tevor did a positive effect. He made, I wouldn't say point war relevant, but there's more activity going on overall. Like if I look, and he's not like unstoppable. For example, he's not even unstoppable. When I look, example, like there are people attacking me. The names I never read before. But I can show you, for example, there are people like this guy, for example, he used the Tevor against me. Then this guy, no, he did not, but he used Wimpin and Feng Nusi. But I saw already other people. This guy, for example, also used Tevor. I also had plenty. Now I got more attacks going on with different team combinations. But you also see like people with, and even people with Tevor lose to my defense. And I only have a meme defense right now running this year with even Raven in there. And they're losing with even a Tevor. There was also someone who attacked me with a Tevor, a Wimpin, and a Feng Nusi and still lost to this. So it is not unstoppable. Also, my personal opinion is people are thinking like, oh, Tevor is too strong and stuff. But you also have to consider other factors as well. For example, Tiye's buff actually is ridiculous, guys. Like the AP swap and now the strip and everything she has, she's actually cracked. She's actually very, very strong. And then you have the combination. Then you also have Windpin you can combine with Tevor. And that makes it even stronger. That's why people are thinking like, oh, he suddenly is super strong. Yes, he is strong. But there are also other factors you have to consider. Also, when we're like looking pre-patch or pre-buff Tevor now, there's also the Exodia comp, right? Which that is free to play, for example, Showcase, and I mean, I already know about the comp, and that was actually the strongest defense in the game with a speed lead, a CJ, at least R2, Ethan, Fang Nusi. That was a ridiculous team. That CJ just one-shotted your whole team. It is ridiculous. It is absolutely ridiculous, and that's the combination which is actually makes specific team combination or specific units really strong. For example, that CJ in a defense is super strong because there is an Ethan, and that Ethan supports the Fang Nusi, which then resets your team and makes that CJ goes off and just completely wrecks you because of that combination. So, and that's the same thing for Tevor. Tevor in itself is not the biggest offender at all. It's a different, like there are different components that play together which make him really, really great. And let's just assume, for example, they decide to nerf Tevor to the ground so that he's completely irrelevant for PvE, right? So you know what people are doing? I show you. Okay, Tevor's not here anymore. GG. They still win, then they just use something else. It doesn't matter. Pre-patch, if you got fucked by someone and now you're getting fucked by someone, if Tevor is nerfed, you're still getting fucked. It doesn't change the fact. But what he does, at least for when we're looking at PvP or Point War, whatever at the end of the day, he's just a new option you can use. And that's it for my opinion. I mean, if they decide to nerf something when it comes to his damage numbers, they could nerf his numbers for PvE. In my opinion, that's fine. What they could also do is, if they really want to nerf the overflow damage, what they could do is nerf it from 150% down to 100%, and that's completely fine. But Tevor on itself is not the biggest offender. There are many more issues to the game, and now they finally decide to, we actually care about balancing. No, they don't care about balancing. They don't even know what balancing means. Like, it's like balancing, it's like a completely different language. Like someone from Mars is talking to them, like an alien or something. And do I even want to add something? Also, there's another thing. People right now are comparing Tevor to Lewis because Lewis has an overflow damage. But also what you cannot forget is that Lewis only has that overflow effect when he's at R6, not at R0. He's like, how can you compare an Inferno DPS to a Shimmer Fighter and then an R6 effect? Like, Lewis is not even really a overflow DPS unit unless you have an R6, and to get to R6 is not even like accessible, right? Like, for example, I have only an R2 Lewis. So that's another thing, by the way. So I don't like the comparison to Lewis when it comes to the overflow, but that's just my opinion. Oh yeah, I just remembered another thought I had. So if they decide to nerf Tevor, you know what they should also nerf next? Fang Nusi.